Okay, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar. I am Ron Hamlin, the CEO of Virtual Reload. I started this company in order to provide coaching to high school students to help them gain college scholarships. And that's something that is currently lacking in the esports ecosystem right now. There is not a whole lot of support at the high school level. Part of the motivation for this was the fact that I'm a foster parent and came across a lot of children who were the unfortunates of society, and saw a way that this could provide just another avenue for students who may not have a support structure as well. One of the stories I like to share is a young man named Chris who was in care for the last couple of years of high school, and he was looking at possibly going into the military based on not having another route for exiting high school successfully. And I introduced him to the Erskine College head coach. His name is Brandon Oberly. And Brandon offered him a $28,000 scholarship to go to Erskine for esports. So that was a game changer for me. And we also have Evan McGraw here, our COO. Part of what he talks about is how video games taught him to think tactically, the value of practice, patience, and determination, which fosters a competitive spirit. He translated those values over to his swimming career, which took him to the University of Mary Washington, and he was part of an incredible team that captured 4 straight Capital Athletic Conference championships. That drive and competitiveness also led him to continue to play golf competitively in his later years. Later years? You consider yourself that old?
Do you see these gray hairs in my beard? I also have a few up here. I'm in my 30s, so these are my later years indeed.
He's captain an APA team and such. He also helped to bring in sponsorships for that was Heroes of the Storm with Jake, right?
Heroes of the Storm, that's right. Yeah, a grassroots tournament that was started by a big fan of the game. He wasn't necessarily involved with Blizzard directly, but was so involved in the game that he started his own podcast and his own following, and he wanted to start a grassroots campaign to host his own crowd-funded tournament, and he called it Bloodlust after the ultimate ability of one of the characters. And I was a big fan of his and of the game. And when I heard that the company that I was working for at the time is called Ting was currently sponsoring a StarCraft player named Neeb, I reached out to the person internally who had arranged that sponsorship of Neeb, told him about the tournament, got the two in touch, and we ended up sponsoring the tournament for him. He was able to do a lot with a lot of his tournament organizers and his shoutcasters, flying them completely across the country from California to where he was, I believe, in Massachusetts at the time, to put on the tournament. And it made me really happy. That was my first involvement in getting something esports related up off the ground, and it was something that I had carried with me when I moved from Virginia down to South Carolina. And then as soon as I met Ron at a networking event, he had mentioned esports in his bio. I thought, man, I've got to be a part of this. So I reached out to Ron, and the rest is history. But we're going to see how far we can take VR and help the esports community as a whole.
Yeah, man, for sure. And we're also joined by Jake Kuba Pitch, which we'll talk to him in a little bit later. But his bio talks about how he's a content creator, competitor, a top 8 West Coast National Championship qualifier in the game of Dragon Ball FighterZ, starting his career in esports as a high school level League of Legends player. Oh, sorry, he started in League of Legends, actually. And he moved on to teaching by founding the comedy department of the Performing Arts Summer Camp, UCamps. So one of the things that I want to talk about to start with is the benefits of esports and how this can impact youth today that are not being captured in another way. We're not talking about students who are experts at football or soccer or volleyball or any other sport of that nature that has a scholarship route to college. We're looking to capture the students who are the maybe the lost of society, right? Those who are the outcasts, those who turn to gaming and make it a big thing in their life because that is where they thrive, okay? There are 180 colleges around the country that are providing scholarships for esports, but there is not a whole lot of support at the high school level to create that growth that would naturally happen in a traditional sport that's there now. You wouldn't actually graduate from high school and expect to land a college football scholarship, right, if you hadn't ever actually joined the high school football team. So the fact is, in a few years, the competition for esports scholarships is going to be very high, and we're providing the coaching services to be able to help them come up through that. And then we have the outside of the college scene, you've got very, very large worlds in every single, several different gaming titles. League of Legends being one of those, Dota 2 another one, Fortnite was huge last year. The top player, 16 years old, won $3 million. So there's these gigantic purses out there available for expert gamers to win. And at the more, I would almost say, moderate level, I like to point out this example of the NBA. Every NBA organization has an NBA 2K team that when they bring in the players to participate on that team, they pay them $36,000 for 6 months of the season. And they also provide them room and board. And then on top of that salary, they also have like a $2 million, last year, I haven't looked at these numbers lately, but last year was like $2 million for the season to win whenever they go out and compete. So,
amazing.
Yeah, right. So I'm gonna hand this to you. I want you to talk about your experience on the swim team and how the fact that you weren't necessarily directly on the high school team as much or the high school practices, but you were part of a club sport, and how we're positioning ourselves to be that for esports.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that I noticed about esports and the differences between esports and the more traditional sports, and we talk about this a lot with our coaches, is that there is no base foundation for the maturity or the maturing of esports players, either at the high school level or even the middle school level. A lot of the more traditional sports, like you name them, soccer, baseball, things like that. T-ball is the introduction to baseball. Obviously, you can get the kids started much sooner. Right now, there is no path for the living room gamer to get to the collegiate level. A lot of the collegiate coaches that we've talked to for esports programs are recruiting their players straight from their current student body, and they're not looking to the high school levels like the more traditional sports do. So, we noticed that there was a big gap there where somebody just needs to pick up that torch and run with it. So we've decided to take on that mantle and see if we can't help improve esports overall. So as Ron had mentioned, I was on the swim team growing up. I started swimming at 5 years old. I swam for 20 years. As soon as I swam my last event in February of 2006, I said I was never stepping foot inside a pool again. I was a little burnt out. But that's because I wasn't just swimming during the high school season, right? Swimming, most importantly, there is a conditioning aspect to it. So if you take any time off whatsoever, your times start to suffer. So you almost have to be constantly swimming in order to be at that high level of competition. And so my parents enrolled us in a club team. So we were swimming year round. And this is one thing that swimming can do with, indoor pools. It can become an indoor sport. You can swim year round. Now that possibility definitely exists for esports. And there are every other traditional sport also has club teams. You can do travel soccer, for example. You can send your kids to sleepaway camp for football and basketball, things like that. Now, since there is no basic structure for esports, there's also no club organization level for esports either. Ron and I just had a conversation recently with a coach for a high school team, and unfortunately because of COVID, they weren't even able to get their season up off the ground. But we're still unsure about what those seasons are going to look like. We're still in entry level mode for esports at the high school level. However, we would like to be that club organization where if your child shows some real promise in Overwatch or Rocket League, League of Legends, you name it, they can participate at the high school level, but you don't want them to take that time off and lose that edge, especially if what they're looking for is a college scholarship. Every athlete that I know of that participated at the NCAA level also did club club organized sports in whatever sport that they were participating in, all throughout high school as well, so that they can have that extra advantage, get to that next level, and get the highest level of scholarship that they possibly can. I swam D3. There was no scholarship for me. It was an experience that I would never give up, and I also think that it helped me get into the school. But if you are right there on the cusp of D3, D1, and you have the opportunity to jump from D3 to D1 and get that scholarship, that is one of the things that we would like to, help the esports players out there grow their level of, skill so that they can actually attain those college scholarships. So there's one of the things that we're also looking at is offering extracurricular tournaments and coaching for those kids who really show promise, so that they can improve their overall skill level at whichever title that they're currently working on, and not having to necessarily rely all that heavily on their local high school program. And in fact, a lot of the games that are being offered at the collegiate level are not being offered at the high school level because of the nature of the game itself. And I know that the high school program that we spoke to today was concentrating mostly on Rocket League and League of Legends because Fortnite and some of the other shooting games were a little too violent for the high school scene. Completely understandable. Perhaps we don't want that to be promoted at the high school level, but those are games that are being competed against at the collegiate level. So how are you going to get your esports player at the high school level that exposure? And we'd like to be in one of those venues for you.
Thank you, Evan. That was awesome.
Of course.
All right. So, Jake, if you want to show yourself up.
Hello, everybody.
There he is.
Show your face, Jake.
If you want to give yourself a better intro than I gave you, and what I want you to kind of start with your experience at the college level with esports.
Of course. First things first, I agree with like everything that Evan just said. Like the systems in place, they're not quite there yet for collegiate and high school, like the transference between the two. There's a lot of lack of communication between those. But hi, for those of you who don't know me, which is probably all of you, my name is Jake Kuba Pick. I know there's an H at the end there. I know it doesn't make sense to me either. And I am a professional fighting game player. I play currently in the national championship for Dragon Ball FighterZ. I've played and placed in other games such as Grand Blue Fantasy Versus. I've played a little bit of Street Fighter, some BB Tag, a bunch of different fighting games, which is a little bit different than the other esports that we're talking about, but I'll get into that a little bit later. I actually got my start in esports back in high school when I was a League of Legends player, grinding away every single day, and I was terrible. I was so bad for the longest time because there were no systems in place to teach people how to get better at the games that they were playing. You just kind of had to figure it out on your own. And I had like 10,000 hours sunk into this game, and I was still just pretty all right at it. Till one day, a higher level player took me under their wing, scooped me up, and eventually got to the point where I was as good as them and got offered a contract to be paid for the game. Unfortunately, I had to turn it down due to personal reasons, and the fact was that I wanted to focus on college. And when I was I was there when League of Legends was born. So I watched the entire esport get born around it. And basically, there was no like scholarships or anything yet. It was just this game that you played, and watching it evolve into this thing where I know people that have been paid $20,000 full rides to college just for being incredibly good at a video game now. My buddy Perry, who is a pro Dragon Ball FighterZ player out on the East Coast, he just bought a house with his money, because being able to learn how to get better and having these people and these systems in place to be able to take you to that next level can help you apply. And I didn't get good at esports until not only that person teaching me how to play League of Legends, but until I applied my own college experience. See, I was a two-time national speech and debate champion, and using those tools in any competition, whether it's Evan with swimming, me with speech and debate or League of Legends, or heck, LeBron James could probably be good at Rocket League if he really wanted to, because he knows the work ethic and he knows how to do it. It's having those systems in place. And not only that, having the people that know how to put those things in can affect the experiences so well. The amount of kids that I met, because during all of this, I was actually a school teacher for 5 years. I was able to teach speech and debate. And I also had kids find out that I was doing this esports stuff on the side. And they were begging me to teach them how to beat each other up in fighting games, which fighting games, I don't know if we're going to be able to get those into high schools right away, but definitely not one of them. But the rest of them are pretty tame. There's no blood or anything. It's just like Spark, Kapow, Powerpuff Girls.
If they allow wrestling, Jake, they
exactly. It's the same level.
yeah. I mean, well, at least Dragon Ball, there's not like blood and gore in Dragon Ball.
Exactly.
Right? Not like there is in Mortal Kombat.
Exactly. It's like giant lasers and literally like orange sparks when they punch each other because they're firing lasers the size of planets at each other. I play a character that can stop time. Like it's not realistic in the slightest. It's not
right.
And even if you look at the other fighting games, basically Mortal Kombat's the big outlier, and NRS games, and they have a wonderful community full of nice people, but their games are not child friendly. But there are plenty of fighting games that are. Anime fighters such as Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle, Soul Calibur is pretty player friendly due to the fact that you can turn even the slight amounts of blood and stuff off. Street Fighter is incredibly friendly, which is weird because when you think of Street Fighter, you think of two people beating each other up. And that's the beautiful thing with fighting games that I think that more people need to understand is that most of the people that come in and end up doing well are actually kids in this. Like I know plenty of students that got their starts going to arcades when they were 12 years old with their big brother and getting taught by the 30-year-old gruff dude who's like, I've been playing Street Fighter 2 for 20 years.
It was Steven Seagal.
Exactly. And they do. They always look like it. And fighting games can have such a positive impact along with all esports. I was requested by my number one student who I just got sponsored by my team, as well as he just qualified for the national championship. He just asked me to write him a letter of recommendation for college apps because he thinks it's going to look that good. And I know for a fact, because I'm friends with plenty of college professors and admissions officers, they know that they're looking for those now. So that's what drew me to work with you guys. Like the fact that you're putting these systems in place, I think are so incredibly important because I lacked these systems when I was going out. I lacked these systems from high school, and I just want to be able to give people what I didn't have. And I think that the knowledge of being able to apply the ability to learn how to learn, which is what the number one thing that I teach every single person I've ever had to coach or work with is you need to learn how to learn. It is the number one tool that will apply in everything for the rest of your life. And esports is not only such a great way to do that, it's the only way some of these kids can. Because I know when I was going up through middle, elementary, high school, all of those, I was not an excellent student. All right. I was able to pick up on things pretty quickly, but I didn't know how to apply it in the best ways possible. And the moment that I started allowing esports and speech debate in my life, I 4.0, like out of nowhere, because you just know how to apply that knowledge now. And if you can use video games as an outlet for that, I think it's wonderful because there's so many kids that are like, oh, I don't like math. But if you can gamify it and teach them how to apply it, it's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's so
and
true.
That is great. Yeah, and almost to a man, every coach that we have interviewed so far for our roster has said, I wish something like this had existed when I was in school.
I am not surprised by that at all.
I tell every one of them, well, now's your opportunity to pay it forward, right?
Exactly. Right. And I've worked in teaching, and I've taught things that I'm passionate about, and I've taught things that I'm not so passionate about. I'm happy to be teaching something that I'm actually passionate about.
Yeah. So that story about the student asking you for recommendation leads into the next kind of category we're going to talk about. Even job seekers or job hirers, whatever you would call that, corporations, right? Those who are looking for people to work for them, and colleges at any level you're talking about are looking for people who have been a part of something.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Because if you've been a part of it, that already shows that number one, you get along with other people, and at some degree, you've had maybe even had clashes and had to work through issues, right?
Absolutely.
And you're coachable, right? You're able to take direction and apply that, because you're not going to have a 4-year career, whether that's high school or college, in a sport if you're not coachable, right? You're going to get cut. If you're not coachable, you're going to get cut. They're not going to keep pouring into someone who's not taking it. Right?
I got cut my first year of speech and debate. Yeah. Like it happens. Like if you do not listen to your coaches, like sometimes you just need to learn how to close your mouth and say, yes, coach. Like
Jordan got cut. But
Exactly.
yeah, to add to your point, Ron, I've been in sales for pretty much my entire career since I graduated in 2006, so 14 years. And the first company that I joined, I went through a recruiter, and they said they were specifically looking for collegiate athletes because it was a sales job, and everybody is very competitive, but they also want to know that you're individually driven as well. So, and swimming is probably one of the most individually driven sports out there, because the entire time that you're training, your face is in the water and you're not breathing half the time. So you have only yourself to talk to for most of it. But that is one thing that very specifically that sales organizations and recruiters are looking for, people who have an athletic background. Because they have that discipline, that internal drive, and that competitiveness. And I've spent the first 14 years of my career in technology sales, and just recently with a company that had a very robust cybersecurity solution. And one of the things that we were looking for were people who are good at coding, but also who are good at esports.
Yep. So that goes into the intangibles and everything like that. And just like the things that you can get for being a part of a football team, you can get from being a part of a Rocket League team or Madden or Dragon Ball Fighters, any other esports team that's out there. The thing is that we're going to capture students who are not going to be on the football field in this process. And we're still going to teach them nutrition and fitness. We're going to teach them those team building skills and all of those things. That is one point that I like to make about esports, is that it brings legitimacy to gaming.
Yes.
Right? If your student, if your child who you're looking at playing Fortnite or Minecraft or Madden or any of these games, and you're looking at it as the waste of their time, well, they're going to find a way to play those same games when they go to college.
I love that you just said that, because I grew up in a household that banned video games. Like, I wasn't allowed to play games at all. So what did I do? I drove over to my friend's house. At 5 years old, I would go over to the neighbor's house and play Diddy Kart Racing. Like, I would go across the street to my friend Wyatt's house to play Super Smash Brothers. Growing up, I would take my school laptop. I would drive over to my friend's Will's house and I would play League of Legends. Like, kids are going to have the hobbies that they have, and it's about channeling those hobbies in a constructive format.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
When it becomes a scholarship at the college level, right? They still have to keep their grades up, just like if they're there for football. Right. They have the whole athletic scholarship requirement. They have to have like a C average or whatever it is, so they can't play games to the point of failing their classes if they want to keep their scholarship.
Yeah, if you do that, you're going to get cut from the team. It doesn't matter how good that you are.
Yeah, you're not going to stay on the team. So
and that healthiness that you were talking about earlier is such an important factor as well. Like, look, I'm a big dude. All right, like I have been crazy, right? And I actually was at the point last year where I got up to about 300 pounds, and that was not healthy for me. And I've noticed, as I've recently just I hit the 50-pound mark, that my entire gameplay has improved because of it, my entire thought process, and I'm able to play for longer. Like,
that's great.
Being able to, and I'm not trying to flex on people. I'm trying to say that as somebody who's been on both sides of this, I've been on the unhealthy side and I'm getting on the healthy side. That ability and knowledge of fitness and understanding is so critical to even something that is just involving us sitting around hitting buttons. Like,
right. Yeah,
it's important that our coaches communicate that to our students as well.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely.
And the draw for the student to be healthy outside of just having a good body is being fit makes you a better gamer, right?
Yes.
In your example you just pulled up on screen there with your fight stick, right? Your reaction time in that game is extremely important.
My reaction time went up by about 30 milliseconds, which is huge. Like,
yeah, when you're not eating right and you're not necessarily in shape, right? Those reaction times are going to suffer.
Absolutely.
In almost every game, precision makes a big difference. So
absolutely.
Yeah, you're more sluggish and whatnot. One of the other great anecdotes that we heard from one of our coaches is that he coached at the collegiate level, and as soon as some of the players that got to him had never played with any of their teammates that they've known before. right? So it was one of the first times that they were in a team environment playing with teammates that they actually knew and could talk to. And he said that that was a huge difference for them, something that they didn't get exposure to in high school, and actually had a huge, profound effect on them. One of the players that he was coaching had to, essentially break himself down and build himself back up as a team player, and it actually improved his play overall.
Yes.
He went up a rank. He understood that the game wasn't all about him. He didn't have to be the carry, and that's another aspect of it as well. Once you get to that level, you may not always be the best player on your team anymore. How does a player cope with that?
Absolutely. And I think that's huge. And I'm coming from an esport where I've played in a team-based esport, and now I play in an individual-based esport, where all of my games are one-on-one. Everything I do, I mess up, and I have to blame on myself, which is why fighting games are not as accessible as other esports to other people sometimes. But going into that, I have a team. Like, I have a crew where we all meet up and we all practice together, and we're in Discord calls every night. We're theory crafting constantly. So it doesn't even have to be a game where you even need multiple people on the same team. It's absolutely just applies to all of these activities in general. Being able to work as a team player, being able to take that feedback, being able to give that feedback when people ask for it, being able to learn that. I've learned stuff from my students that I never learned on my own because I think different than they do. And I think that's such an important aspect of this entire community.
Yeah, I compare the individual based games like Dragon Ball to swimming or cross country or track and field, like those
tennis,
kind of sports. Golf. Yeah, you're an individual competitor, you're an individual athlete, but you're either competing as a team or you're being supported by your team.
Exactly, and you don't even need a sponsorship for that. Like, the beautiful thing about fighting games is that there isn't really like a collegiate level or a lower level. There are college clubs and there are college teams, of course. But all fighting game tournaments are open entry. Every single one of them are open entry. So we literally had a kid who was 12 years old having his parents drive him out to our local every week. And we're like, wow, this kid is small. We better all be cool to him because he's going to grow up one day and we might be able to beat us up. But he's absolutely just perfect. And I think that's such an important aspect, that it's the community that you make, maybe not even just the team that you make.
Yep. So I want to talk a little bit about sponsorships here. What we're looking for in the last couple of minutes. Basically, we have a way of getting in front of a demographic that is not seeing linear advertising today. They're not watching television that, what we grew up with, cable television, anything like that. They're watching streaming services, whether that be Netflix, Hulu, Disney, Twitch, YouTube, and that sort of thing. So putting a sponsorship in the middle of a given stream is a really, really good method for sponsors to get their message in front of these students, people, eyeballs. And so we have a couple of different sponsorship levels here. If anybody on here has interest in this, we can have that further conversation offline as well. So just wanted to go ahead and put that in there as part of this. Everything we've been talking about tonight is very important to what we're doing at Virtual Reload. That's our primary vision, and we want to help these students to basically have a chance at life that they may not otherwise have.
Absolutely. Yeah. And now is your opportunity to get in on the ground floor.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
I'm so happy that the last tier is called POG.
Right?
So happy.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. If you sign up for that level, you are our POG. For forever. So. Ron, did you want to do open things up for a Q&A?
Yeah. So anybody that's been listening, if they've got any questions about what we've talked about, anything or anything we didn't cover, we can definitely answer those questions now.
Absolutely. So I'm seeing one in chat from Jared. He said, would you say that more local LAN opportunities would help players, entry-level players, expose themselves to teaming with people that they know?
Oh, I love talking about this. So my original plan for the company, and I'm still wanting to move in this direction, but I wanted to create a local scene where we have a LAN center set up where you've got people in, let's say they're a league player and the league requires 5 people. So they walk in and they start playing league, and then someone else comes in and they start playing league, and then there's a really great connector for them to become future teammates, and
Right.
practice together. Right now, right, when you play at home, we'll keep league as a topic. You play league at home, you log into the game, and you might randomly find 4 other people that could be around the world, right?
Yep.
People that you would maybe create a long-term relationship with, but most likely you're not. You're in there, you're in one game with them, and then you go on to the next game, and you might be with a totally different group.
Yes.
What online gaming has taken away from what games started with when we were growing up was the social connection, the way to connect with someone face to face and become friends.
Right.
So a LAN center model is actually really tremendous for creating that environment again and building that back up.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to say, the LAN center is essentially the esports equivalent of the rec center, right? I mean, you can go there and you can play pickup basketball whenever you want, but they also host tournaments and events like that, and set up, leagues and things like that. We would like to be the ones that set up the leagues, which would in turn set up the games and things like that. So, LAN centers would, hopefully once we're done with pandemics, would be great for the movement.
Right.
Yes, and I would like to follow up on that just from my all fighting games online, they're not great. Fighting games are just not great online. So we have what are called local tournaments, which is the biggest 2 in America. Well, there's one run on the West Coast and one run in New York. One called Wednesday Night Fights, which I got my start at 2 years ago, and one called NLBC, Next Level Battle Circuit. And some of the biggest names in gaming go to these local events that are completely open entry. They're $5 to enter, and you just get to fight against pros for nothing and get that experience. I went in, and every week I lost $5 to this guy named Reynolds. Every week I would just show up, hand him $5, and then he'd beat me up, and then I'd leave.
You paid for the privilege.
Exactly. But the people that I met there, and I never expected to go professional in this industry. I never even planned on it. It just kind of happened because it was at the point where the top 3 players were like, hey, this weekend I'm hosting games at my house now. Come on over. And then hang out with them, make friends. I met my best friend in the world doing this, to the point where he got hired as the commentator for the national championship for Dragon Ball while I'm competing in it. So It's really funny how biased he is towards me whenever he's commentating.
There you go.
Nice. That's awesome.
But I've also worked as a commentator at major gigs as well, too. Going into this, it's just having that offline face-to-face connection, being able to make these friends, being invited over places. I started hosting things called Cuba Summits out of my house, where we hooked up 9 different monitors, a bunch of PlayStation 4s in this hot little house in East LA, where we definitely all did not fit. And we would run games for 14, 16 hours and just give information to each other, help out. And then we'd all go get dinner together and hang out as friends. Having that offline place to be able to meet and go to is so important. And a lot of these games, people are like, oh, I play it online, so it's fine. I talk to my friends online, but being able to replace that with the ability to actually hang out with them face to face and not make it 100% always about the game also adds that next level of connection to it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great.
Something that we're all missing now in the age of COVID.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
April was wondering where our tournaments are broadcasted. So we currently stream our events to Twitch, and I gave the link for that. We do have plans to extend that to beyond Twitch. We're just working on building out the crew to make all those wonderful links happen.
Yes.
Facebook is one place we can do that. YouTube's another. And we do actually, we need to do this a little bit more, but we actually do record the events and then post them to YouTube as well. So we do have a YouTube channel currently. Actually, I did not send that link out. I need to find that. I'll find that and send it out. So,
great.
And then you want to
absolutely.
Next question.
So it looks like the next question is: has Virtual Reload thought about facilitating events specifically for the high school sector? giving these players a platform to gain scouting opportunities from a collegiate level. So, I can say absolutely right off the bat. I mean, in fact, that was Ron's original vision, was to help players from the high school level, have greater, exposure to competition, not just coaching, but competition as well, because that would, sort of, sharpen the stick, so to speak, and give them something that, the collegiate coaches can view in sort of like a recruiting sheet. And in fact, we have VR has partnerships right now that are in the works, so we can't say specifics, but we are, all right, stay tuned.
I'm just waiting to hear what free stuff I should ask for. All right, that's what I'm waiting for.
Don't worry, Jake. You'll get all the free stuff. I'll make sure of it. So the partner, though, that we're looking to get involved with, we're looking to become the coaching aspect of this platform. And essentially, what it's going to do is there's going to be several parts to it, but it's going to be a platform where the student and the coach meet. They'll be able to record their coaching sessions, but there'll also be a rating given to both student and coach. Based off of the students' talent that they've been able to achieve in not just individual play, but tournaments that they play in as well. And there'll also be a record of how long they've been coached for. So if you are a collegiate coach and you're looking to recruit, since there's no platform for that now, like there is in more traditional sports, you can go to this platform, you can see all the esports players out there, and you can see essentially their resume of gaming since they've started. You don't have to take their word for it. You don't have to do all that additional research. You can see, this player has started in middle school. He's done all these tournaments. You can see very, improvement from, 8th grade to 9th grade. You can see that he's been involved in coaching since 8th grade. And you can base your judgments based off of that. So it's a way for the college coaches to be able to have a wider array of players to recruit from, but it's also a way for the students to kind of get their names out there, right? So it is our partner's goal to become the gold standard, right? So in the more traditional sports, there are recruiting websites where these recruits will put their game day tapes up, and they're given a certain rating. There's essentially a holiday here in the South every year where the 5-star recruit decides which college he's going to go to. And they line up 3 hats on the table and he chooses one, and everyone at that school goes crazy. So something like that doesn't exist for esports just yet, but that is something that we're looking to become a part of. It's something that's in the works and can be rolled out very soon. It's in beta right now, but it's definitely something that's going to help us get those high school players the attention of the college coaches, so that there may actually be a college scouting department for esports, and will hopefully grow the amount of college programs that are out there.
And to tack on to that a little bit, outside of that partnership, we'd also been talking about generating kind of local competition, not necessarily a league per se. There are some leagues out there that are already nationally renowned, but we would basically assist those high schools in choosing the best league to join. And in a geographical area, we would be approaching them and saying, like if Play Versus is the best league to decide on, to have all of the schools in the area join that same league, so that when they want to have a competition, they're competing locally and not just with a school that's across the country.
Right.
Okay.
Also, yeah, and to build on the whole club aspect of things, we're also planning on organizing tournaments outside of the Play Versus and the high school leagues, so that those kids can continue to have that competition and meet when there isn't just the high school season going on. Right.
Yep.
So.
And I know there was another question. I'm trying to find it. Professional level play is as much networking as it is core ability. What is Virtual Reload doing to help promote personal branding and networking? Outside of the actual, I like to talk about it as a holistic approach. Outside of just the skilled players such as Kuba here playing Dragon Ball at the top level, there is a whole lot of other services needed and provided for an esports event to occur. You've got your people announcing the games, as Jake actually alluded to with the shoutcasting. You've got all the video production behind the scenes. You've got the person running the stream itself. So there's a lot of different pieces to an esports event. And then on top of that, people who I like to use Ninja here because Ninja's skill level used to be pretty up there, and then he got a big following, and now he just kind of streams content.
Yes.
Right.
He doesn't necessarily have to keep his skills at such a level as much as he's just an entertainer, right?
Yes,
Right.
and that's huge because I've known plenty of people that started out as competitors and have since moved into, like, my friend Chelsea. She's operations over at Cloud9 now, one of the biggest esports organizations out there.
Nice.
My
Yeah.
buddy Kevin Haw actually gave me the platform to get my start by running the streams for Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Dragon Ball Fighters over at Wednesday Night Fights. Wednesday Night Fights itself is run by a company called Level Up Live, which was started by Mr. Street Fighter Alex Valle, which now does production events all over the country all year. And I'm friends with everybody on the Level Up Live team. They get flown out to Vegas, they get flown out to New York to set up entire tournaments and work production there. This is not just a industry where you have to play the video game. There's other aspects of it where you can make a living and have a great time doing it.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
we want to have an atmosphere that encourages all of that. And as part of our physical locations, once we're set up with those, we do intend on having a streaming booth that would allow someone who's wanting to maybe start a YouTube channel or a Twitch stream and come in with their knowledge of the game and how they want to do it and run that on a high-end system so that they can kind of dabble in it and figure out if that's actually what they want to do before they go and spend the thousands of dollars to have the setup at home.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, but when it comes to professional level play, a lot of the coaches that we brought onto our roster have played professionally at one point or another, either professionally or semi-pro. Jake, you're a great example of that. So if you are looking to get your name out there, if you're professionally branding and you want to be able to start offering coaching to other professionals or semi-pros, that's definitely a level which that we want to offer that coaching as well. It's not just middle school or high school or colleges, but we also have that capability to offer coaching to people who are playing at that level. So if you want to expand your brand that way, becoming a coach with Virtual Reload is a great way to do it. We're also looking at outsourcing some of our coaches to the collegiate level. So if you're a college out there, and let's say you're in the SEC and the League of Legends Championship is coming up, and you want to get some last minute coaching for your team, you can go to Virtual Reload, and then you'll have a professional or semi-pro League of Legends coach there that can coach up your team and help get you ready for that tournament. And that's another one of the plans that we have out there, but another way of, if you're a professional level player, to get your name out there as well.
April,
very good question.
Yeah. And then April asked, are we targeting a specific geographic area for both the athletes and the coaches, or is this available nationally? And actually, the answer to that is that we are international.
Right.
We have coaches in the U.S., Canada, South Africa, Netherlands, Stockholm. Where else? Italy.
Italy, Spain, Brazil. And one of our coaches actually used to play professionally in Thailand. And they flew him out to Thailand. He played there for 6 months and moved back to the West Coast from the East Coast. But we have coaches India as well, all over the world. So we're not limiting ourselves to a geographic area for the the middle school and high school level coaching and collegiate. Obviously, we're keeping that in the United States for the time being, right? As far as I know. Although a lot of the coaches internationally have also played for their schools.
Yeah, the message, the goal, the message and outreach of bringing a student through high school into a collegiate scholarship is going to be specific to America, most likely. But those same students in any other country could also receive our coaching services.
Absolutely. We
are making a local effort to build out the LAN centers and such to be the high school competition space.
Mm-hmm.
As for that part of it, but the coaching sessions being virtual can happen from anywhere to anywhere, and being an online company that allows that to happen.
Absolutely.
So
we offer coaching in pretty much all languages, right?
Well, not quite all languages.
A
but-
lot of our international coaches are multilingual. And some of them-
Yes.
7
That's not. We
languages
don't.
that they have.
How many languages are there versus?
Yeah.
Either way.
Too many sometimes.
If you speak a language out there and would like to get esports coaching, and you cannot find a coach of ours that speaks your language, I'll give you free coaching. How's that sound? It's on me,
That's a good setup.
right?
Nice. I like it.
There you go. Awesome.
All right.
Well, this has been great, guys. I appreciate all the questions from everybody who joined us tonight, and was interested in esports, and we'd love to see what we can do. Ron says one of my favorite phrases is "a rising tide raises all boats."
Yes.
And so we are all the boats right now, and we're hoping that VR is that tide. So. It looks
So
like
Joseph wants to help with TO.
Yeah.
So we'll connect
quick
with
question.
you.
Yeah, please. You can submit your resume to Ron's email address right there. And for everybody watching, it's ron.hamlin@virtualreload.com if you're also interested in joining VR. Joseph, if you'd like to be a tournament organizer in Canada, we'd love to talk about it.
Cool.
Yeah, and thank you guys for putting this all together and allowing a platform, and not only that, an outlet for coaching, because I've had people ask me to coach them before, and I'm like, we'll figure it out, and then we never do. So having that platform is so important.
Yeah,
absolutely.
For sure.
Absolutely. I think we can do great things with the platform that we're putting together. So.
About our social medias on the actual video, we have Facebook at The Virtual Reload. We also have twitch.tv as The Virtual Reload. Twitter and Instagram are both Virtual Reload. And then our website is virtualreload.gg.